One of the things that has always made us as Canadians unique from the United States is that we've always been a bit more progressive on things, even as going far back as to the 50s and 60s kind of dark ages. We've always been just that a little bit more progressive. And one of the reformations of the conservative movement in the United States was the creation of the PC Party, or the Progressive Conservatives. We're the conservatives, but we're just a bit progressive, which kind of seems like an oxymoron to me. But anyway, now they were very ideologically driven, as most conservatives definitely are. But there has been a significant change recently that's, frankly, just a bit frightening. With the lack of leadership that exists in the Ontario PC Party right now, as it is, a new leader has come into the ranks and is now going to be taking over the party. That would be Doug Ford, the brother of the infamous Rob Ford, mayor of Toronto, as we got to be known, the crack-smoking mayor of Toronto. And this is very significant because I think it speaks very much to the dysfunctional nature, the terrible situation that the Progressive Conservative Party is in right now. That Doug Ford was the best that they could do as leadership, or even he was the one they wanted as leadership. It's almost frightening to see that this is the way that they want to be. This is the way that they want to function. Now, let's put his brother's reputation aside and deal with Doug Ford himself. Now, he sold, and this has been exposed as the truth, he sold hashish for many years in the 1980s. Now, his brother Randy was involved in the drug trade and was once charged in relation to a drug-related kidnapping. Their sister Kathy has been the victim of drug-related gun violence, and as we know and the whole world knows, Rob Ford, the brother, was doing crack while he was in office, and doing crack, other times crack cocaine. Doesn't that kind of say something about this family, which has now become a political family? This is I guess you can't really call them our version of the Kennedy family, because that's probably closer to the Trudeaus. But it's amazing that this is what the Conservative Party is putting forth as a leader. Now, let me add a little bit more to this. He is a major fan of Donald Trump, and that in itself should say pretty much everything that there is to say. Now, let me add this. Now, Doug Ford has had his own Donald Trump moments. He said recently that he was going to save taxpayers' money by by cutting provincial funding to the CBC. That would be the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or the state broadcaster. The problem is that they're not funded by the provincial government. They're funded by the federal government. So Doug Ford really has no idea what he's talking about. This is very Donald Trump-esque and very appropriate coming from a guy who really likes Donald Trump. Now, he's also done he wants to do some pretty frightening things. For example, he wants to abolish the sex education curriculum in Ontario because it goes against his religious values. If anything, at what point does a lack of education ever lead to something better? I mean, I don't have to go into the history of what happens when you don't have a sex education curriculum. You only have to look at teen pregnancy rates, levels of abortion in many cases, the relations between men and women, and some kind of the outright stupidity that we definitely see from the United States, particularly the South, which is anti-sex education. And this has always been a thing that was not Canadian. You educate kids on sex, they end up acting a lot better than when they're uneducated. I mean, it's just common sense, and has been confirmed by massive amounts of statistics. Here's also something Doug Ford wants to do. He wants to bring back a law that says stores can't be open on Sunday because it's the Lord's Day. Now, this very much goes against the very core of what the Conservative Party, the Progressive Conservative Party, if I can still use the word progressive in this context, stands for. They stand for business being able to do whatever business wants. Yet now he's turning around and telling them that they're not allowed to be open on Sunday, even if they're not Christian. I mean, I don't even really have to go into an argument for this, but having things open on Sunday is very handy to those who work a 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, who can only do certain things on the weekend because of time constraints that have been put against them because of their job. So now they're stepping on businesses, telling them that they can't be open at certain times on a religious ground, which really kind of violates that whole separation of church and state, which for the most part Canada has been fairly good at least in the last few decades. So it's mind-boggling to me that this guy, who's now essentially spitting on big business for the sake of a religion that frankly a lot of Ontarians don't really care about. Much of the Christians in Ontario, at least most of Canada for the most part, are very lip service Canadians. They don't, lip service Christians. You know, they're not really, they just basically pay lip service to it. They're by no means fundamentalists, although there are Christian fundamentalists in Ontario and the rest of Canada. But for the most part, Canada is very laid back when it comes to religion, especially in this regard. And I think it's scary that this is the person who's going to be running for the premiership of Ontario during the next election, and frankly stands a good chance of winning, given what a really abominable job that the Liberal Party under Catherine Wynne has done, and even going farther back with, especially with Dalton McGuinty. I'm not telling you to go and tactically vote for the Liberal Party. I'm talking about the change that has taken place in the Conservative Party in Ontario, which is, it's kind of baffling to me. I didn't really think that this kind of thing would be happening in Canada anytime soon, because this really hasn't been our kind of thing in the last few decades. And it's kind of frightening to think about. And I think that it really speaks to the state of the progressive conservative party, that this is the best person that they could put forward. This is the person that they have chosen to be the face of conservatism in Ontario. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.